welcome everyone to the first community call that we're starting after quite a bit of time. So yeah, we're kicking this off again, hopefully at a weekly basis going forward, which will be a topic call as well as open discussion that will open for the community to discuss and ask questions. So first one here is going to be about our DNA. So with us, we're going to have Ben Underman, who's going to be leading this call to lead the DNA discussion. And yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting for everybody. And without further ado, I'll give it to Ben and Dermot.
Dermot, anything you want to add before we kick in?
No, again, I think we're all good. I think I can probably say a few words maybe when we kind of have one of those slides up, or yeah, I'm happy to kind of even give that little bit of extra detail on what we're here and now as well. If that buys you a little bit of time.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just get everyone clear on sort of what they need to do. So my suggestion would be, if you're in Discord, to just click on the share page so that you can actually see what I'm presenting on screen. Basically, you'll be able to see everyone's answers come together in real time. So if you can click on that, that would be great. And then there's a number of details around, or there's some details at the top of the page, which basically just let you know how you can log in. So you need to go to menti.com and use the code. And then when you're in there, you should be able to just give a thumbs up, and then we'll know that that people have been able to log in. So yeah, Dermot, maybe back over to you, and you can talk through what is DNA and what's it mean around alignment whilst people are getting themselves going.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, I guess thanks again to everyone for really your involvement and participation and support to date. As Ben said, there's been over 40 people who've given their direct involvement and many more indirectly and much more loosely, and that's across the survey, the forum, various DMs, as well as some kind of smaller workshops of people who put their hand up to have some more direct involvement. And yeah, I guess, why are we doing this? We designed this open participatory work stream to really take the opportunity to redefine what are our foundations. So, what are the reasons we're here? So I guess, what's our why, our purpose? What do we actually want to do together? Our mission, as well as what's our view of this promised land that we want to create if we're actually successful in achieving on our purpose and doing what we do. And that's kind of our vision. And ultimately, it really matters how we get there and how we do and how we're going to act and kind of operate along the way. And that's really kind of our set of operating principles or our values. And ultimately, the reason we're doing this is to create a better understanding of what kind of binds the community together. And by doing so, this should really create so much better alignment about kind of our direction forward. And a lot of the kind of confusion and maybe sometimes kind of arguments we've had in the past, it won't all go away. I mean, that's the nature of communities, really. But hopefully, it'll be a lot easier to get quicker alignment on what we really prioritize and what direction we're going. And so we don't, particularly in a remote first environment like this, we don't all have to be in the room together. We don't all have to be on calls. We kind of know the direction we're going, so we can all be moving, adding value, adding impact, really just advancing the overall goals of Pocket. So, and by involving the community and everyone around this, not just kind of having one small development team like P&I back in the day when they initially put together our initial set of mission, vision, values, we really want everyone to have ownership over this process, and that's key to kind of everything we really do. So yeah, that's kind of the starting point, and kind of excited to kind of hear what kind of inputs and outputs we get from this session today as well.
Thanks, Dermot.
So
yeah, thank you. So really want to make sure that everyone has been able to get in. Just a reminder, menti.com, it's up the top. Probably best to do from your phone, or you can do and follow it along directly in your browser. Just to use the code to log in. It would really help me to see who's participating and understand numbers. So if you can just click the thumbs up in the page, which should be showing up in your phone or browser. It will let us see how many people are actually going to be jumping in and participating, and then as we go along, we sort of know when most people have been able to give their answer. And we're going to start with just a couple of practice questions to give you a feel for what it's going to be like. So, before we do that, today's really about being interactive. So you have an opportunity at any point to speak up. We want to capture your answers on the screen, but also we want to hear the stories and narratives you want to put behind that. We want you to use your imagination and creativity, and should be fun. Something we need to remind ourselves sometime, but it's really cool to have people from across the world together thinking about important topics like this. So really excited to try and make it as fun as possible. Okay, so let's have a couple of practice questions to get ourselves going. Is Pocket hot or cool? As you probably figured out, there's no right or wrong answer for these, but just to get familiar with how to use the functionality, let's try and capture results there. I think we got about 10, so give everyone a chance to share their answer. And if people have just joined, you can use the QR code or the link that's at the top of the screen. All right, let's keep it going. Is Pocket fun or serious?
No. Thank you.
Okay, bit of work to do today on having some fun then, I think. All right, and the next one, is Pocket adventurous or is Pocket safe? Okay. Nice. So that gives you a bit of a feel for how you'll answer questions as we go through it. And then just one final question now to sort of open it up a little bit. What one word would you use to describe Pocket? And actually can answer a couple of times. We've made sure you got the functionality. So if there's one or two words that sort of jump out to you, let's hear them now.
City violence.
I hear a bit of background noise, which is okay. If you're wanting to speak up, being off mute's totally fine. Does anyone want to share anything about their answer, or feel comfortable to share? Okay, we'll call on you to maybe answer a little bit more actively in some of the other questions, and maybe call out some specific examples as we go. But thanks for taking us through that. Two words on the screen here. Maybe you can just have a chat about how these came up and what we've heard so far.
Yeah, sure. I guess, and across the kind of the surveys, as we kind of asked directly and indirectly, I guess what resonates with different people, particularly in terms of why they're proud to be at Pocket, how they came to Pocket, why they plan to stay at Pocket, and why they think what Pocket's true purpose is. And a lot of different words came up, and unstoppable was repeatable, and this kind of relates to the initial and existing kind of mission for Pocket, and this idea of just an open internet, and the fact that it's we're ultimately serving open data from any public data source. So kind of we haven't ultimately finalized any of the kind of these kind of purpose, mission, vision, or value statements, but we feel we're getting pretty close from what we've received so far. So we kind of really want to kind of play around with this a little bit and see what resonates, and see how other people respond to kind of some of the words I guess we'll bring up and some of the kind of subsequent slides as well.
Thank you. So let's just dive in. You can answer on your screen, which we definitely want to capture. You're also welcome to sort of speak up. But yeah, in the context of Pocket, what does unstoppable mean to you? It has been coming up again and again. Really keen for you to just help unpack that for us. Let us know what that means. Again, you can answer multiple times if you want to. These are really great responses. I like the one here, resilience through adversity. Who answered that one?
It's me.
Hey, do you want to talk us through a little bit more? You think that's something the Pocket's doing right now?
I think it's certainly a goal to strive for in any kind of project. I think there's things that Pocket could be doing better to get there, but I think that it's something that Pocket certainly has its fair share of adversity now, and how you deal with that, I think, is as important as overall uptime numbers that you might traditionally see. And so, something that's unstoppable has been proven and tested, and I think Pocket certainly has been that.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that description. I think that adds a lot. Okay,
that's great. Does LG Bose want to speak up? I know they're in the comments. They're asking, and I think they might be having difficulties with their phone. I'm not too sure who that is. Speak up now if you want to add your point, or no worries. If not, we can move on.
Okay, we'll keep going, but yeah, feel free to jump in at any time. This is definitely about capturing your voice and hearing what you got to say on these questions. Cool. Next one. So we sort of spoke about open, which can mean lots of different things. So just want you to go through and rank these in terms of what you think is important for Pocket. No right or wrong answer.
I think it's actually important to stress here is actually this is kind of just more a gut feeling, kind of what resonates. Like, don't have to think too deeply about it. Just more, you see those words, just feel to rank them as you wish. Just kind of don't kind of get too deep into the categorization.
Great. So a little bit of a theme emerging of open infrastructure and open source. Does anyone want to share why they sort of think open infrastructure or open source were most important to them?
And feel free to do so in the text if you don't want to speak up for whatever reason. And I guess on the flip side, also it'd be interesting if anyone feels strongly against any of those terms, like open organizations or open internet and so on and so forth. It'd be interesting.
I'll jump in on this one. I strongly believe that the open source should be at the top. I feel like what we're doing at Pocket is building out this protocol that can really allow all of these other open infrastructure, open data, open internet, open organization terms to really exist in the first place without the eyes on the code, without people knowing this is how it works. You can check it, you can inspect it, you can audit it. That I think comes first, and that should be the most important thing, is that we're working in the open. Like, nothing's hidden, nothing's gated behind proprietary software. I think that's the most important part about what we're doing here, as opposed to a centralized company where something might work, but nobody really knows how it works or what it's really doing under the hood. I think that's the key, is that what we're doing here at Pocket is different to something like Infura, for example.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's really helpful context. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, people can sort of expand on answers too in the comments on the slides if that's something you want to do. Cool. Let's keep going. The next one then. Yeah, what does open mean to you? You know, we gave some examples of types of open, I suppose, but yeah, how would you describe it? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And again, want to capture your results on screen, but if you want to shout out and explain more, we'd love to hear your stories as well. These are really really cool. Any jumping out at you, Dermot?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the kind of the range, to be honest. I think everyone's kind of hitting the best, or just some really interesting points. Whether it's does anyone actually touch on anything that they've said? Whether it's, say, sharing best practices, kind of thinking of those collaboration pieces. I think H5Law kind of gave a really good point around the value of open source more generally. But yeah, does anyone else want to bring in, for example, the creative thinking outside the box, challenging assumptions? I love that. That kind of aligns nicely with the kind of the growth mindset that's also said. This is really good stuff. We can't see the full screen on our side, by the way, Ben. It's kind of as it fills up, we get a more limited.
Yeah, I just sort of been going down. It's
I don't.
it's the way it's.
I want to.
Jump in. Man.
I don't want to put a what's it called? I don't want to put a stick in our spoke, but or throw off the vibe here. But I'm looking through the list of who's here and who's in this community call, and it's just funny to me that no one from PNI. Well, Michael just showed up, so that's good. But it's just funny that nobody else from PNI is here. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, something we probably need to work on in making sure that that we're being open and inclusive of everyone. But thanks for referencing that. Cool. Let's go to the next question. Absolutely awesome answers there. So another item that sort of came up again and again through the survey and discussions is really what I think is becoming an important part of a piece of intellectual property of Pocket, which is sort of this RPC trilemma. Don't think I need to describe it anymore to people. I think we're all becoming more and more familiar with it, and it's feeling like part of our DNA. It's feeling like a good expression of sort of what we're trying to be and what it is that we're working on. So we want to ask you to sort of help us understand a little bit more what that actually means, what that would look like. So the question is, what do most reliable, most performant, or most cost-effective look like or mean? Yeah. What we're really looking for is examples that we would be able to say, hey, when we're most reliable, we will do this. Yeah. Or a really great example of being cost-effective would be that. And we just want you to just give us your own examples of sort of what that means to you, what that looks like. I think it'd be really valuable for us to have some reference points for how we would know that we're sort of meeting what we're setting out to do around the RPC trilemma. Okay, there's a great example in there, which is default, and it's actually another word that came up quite a bit in our conversations. Hopefully the person that answered that is not going to feel too put on the spot, but yeah, if you answered default, could you unpack that? What does default look like? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, this is the awkward moment when it's me. If anyone else wants to speak to that too, but yeah, for me, it's just what you go to. It's kind of the unquestioned answer because it's so good on all the dimensions that you care about. Why would you think about anything else? So that's kind of, yeah, you meet all the kind of service standards you want, but then you have that the brand really aligns with your values. So there's no need or reason you'd look elsewhere. So that's kind of the dream end goal for me. It's just Pocket so ubiquitous, maybe it becomes a verb to some extent. I don't know if Pocket works quite the same way for Googling, but that's kind of how I think about it a little bit.
Great, thanks, Dermot. Cool, lots of good examples in here. Maybe give it another minute because I think this is one that maybe takes a moment to sort of unpack a little bit. But when we think of reliability or performance or cost effectiveness, if you have any other examples that you can share, we'd love to get them. And again, if anyone wants to speak up, that would be awesome.
Does they want to speak to that kind of, we must be that choice, kind of the cheapest yet most performant and available solution is the best choice?
So that was me again, actually. So I'm thinking in this space, obviously, there's a lot of default people are going to things like the centralized providers. They have the most well-known names. However, if you look at some of the RPC comparison sites, we actually are outperforming them in a lot of areas. And it's something that maybe it's a marketing issue, maybe who knows what kind of thing we can do to become that default choice, but something in a world, an ideal world, where instead of the default option being, oh, let me just use Infura because they're the most well-known, let me use Pocket because that's the most well-known, that's the cheapest, that's where I'm going to get the most bang for my buck. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of what our goal should be aiming towards is sure, we might be the most performant in certain areas at the moment, but how can we become, like you were saying, that default choice? And I think that's really what we need to be focused on at the moment is becoming that default choice for any app developer.
Yeah, I think this is a great point that's worth double clicking on. And actually it's something kind of really interesting that's kind of come through as part of this DNA process. So while previously a lot of the focus was on unstoppable, and that's kind of powerful. And I think it's the purpose why a lot of people are here. But actually, in terms of what we do, what we're selling, it's the most reliable, most performant, and cost-effective service because that's what developers actually care about. So I think it's really important that we do focus on those points and that those messages are getting through to the end consumer because actually most of those developers, in fact, I'd say almost none of them are buying on the idea of Pocket being unstoppable, purely in terms of this decentralization or censorship resistance sense. They want something that works for their end users, and they want to be reliable, you want to be trustworthy, all of that good stuff. So yes, I think that's a super important point, and it really helps align us in terms of what we're doing and how we can improve Pocket. But actually, there's another point, and actually, we're excited to kind of share a kind of a bigger ecosystem thesis that we've been working on that will kind of help back up some of our thinking on kind of some of our thinking around priorities and what we can all work towards. And actually, some of that analysis is showing that, to your point, H5 Law, exactly, of actually, yes, while there's a huge portion of the market that is untapped because they want certain better features or kind of factors in terms of dimensions of reliability, performance, probably not cost. Actually, there's a huge amount of the market that's just not using Pocket because of its brand. We're just not getting the right messages through to them. So it's just an obvious untapped opportunity if we actually kind of step up our branding, our design, and just make it so much easier and remove the friction from some of those sales. I think we can do. So yeah, there's a huge market actually at what we've been looking at, even in the small market we're currently in.
Brilliant, thank you. Cool, Dermot, maybe you can keep going because I think the next one is just an example of what people have said around, sort of our outlook for the future and where we think we're going.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And this is kind of, when people are talking about kind of the world we want to create, and we've asked this question in different ways and really to kind of elicit people thinking around what's the real vision, the end goal, kind of like the promised land for Pocket. And it goes back to that purpose of, powering unstoppable open data. But really that's so in the future we want to create is actually the most important digital infrastructure is ultimately open, and it's ultimately owned and governed by its users. So that's kind of really key to that. And that kind of like speaks to our DAO being representative, our nodes, our builders, our applications have a say. We think of our end users, but it's really this kind of collective that we're building. And then I guess that might probably speak to kind of some of the ideas of an open org and just that real open source culture that is imperative to our success, really. So yes, I think the next question is kind of to really double click on this idea of that future, as well as I guess the type of organization we want to be.
Exactly it. And I think one of the things about this is we're coming into alignment here. We're talking about what the future looks like, and the importance of open digital infrastructure is sort of key. But what we're asking here is like what does that actually look like for us? Like how would we know that Pocket is a piece of important digital infrastructure for the future? How people are going to be using it or interacting with it? How would it be viewed? Whatever way you feel is sort of a good way to express that for you might be a good way to express that for the whole of Pocket. So yeah, just really want to capture your ideas around like what will it actually look like when we get there and we are this important piece of digital infrastructure. I might someone on the spot again. Sorry, everyone probably gets sick of me speaking up, but yeah, I like this example of dApps speaking publicly. Something I think about quite a bit as well is like, who's out there selling Pocket outside of Pocket? So yeah, I'm not sure who shared that answer, but maybe if you included the dApps publicly speaking about Pocket example, you could just sort of expand on that and why you think that's important.
I feel like I'm taking the limelight here now. That was me again. To be fair, I think it's one of those things. I've always thought it would be cool if we could have like something like on Pocket Scan where we could see all the nodes are doing, where we could see like what apps are actually using Pocket. And like in a world where, like I say on here, if you have like all these apps that are not partnered with Pocket, but they're actually talking about, yeah, I use Pocket, I pay for my relays, then people would start seeing this is actually like a really important project. These apps that I'm using, they all rely on Pocket. Maybe when I go build my app, I should use Pocket as well. I feel like it's a incredible thing that we could potentially be doing by, I wouldn't say outing people, but like sharing what apps are using Pocket, who's actually paying for relays. These sort of things should be public information, and we should celebrate these apps. It's not about like outing them and just exposing them. It's more about celebrating them for doing the true Web3 decentralized way of actually operating. That's the kind of thinking behind that one.
Great, thank you. I really
Love
like that. Yeah. Anyone else want to share on this? It's really about where you see Pocket heading. Anyone want to speak up, say what they think that looks like?
Yeah, like something that's in the tech your mom uses, Sudo or dgen, or all of this stuff is great. So it'd be great if anyone else wanted to speak up.
Okay, we'll keep going for now. But again, feel free to reach out to Dermot or I after the session as well if there's anything you don't feel was captured or you really want to speak up when you've got a little bit more time to think on this. Cool. I might take this one. Yeah, something that's come up a few times is sort of this idea of an open organization. More like open source developer community rather than necessarily a company. I think it's part of like having a DAO. It's part of being Web3 that you look at redefining what it means to be working on something together and probably thinks of organizations in a new way, which is it's the organization of people rather than sort of the wrapper that necessarily sits around them. So we're really interested in this idea, particularly because it's come up sort of again and again in different forms. And we sort of want to ask a question of you, is like, when you hear this term, this open organization, what sort of values and behaviors would you expect to see? It's probably also another slightly different way you can answer this question, which is like, what are the values and behaviors you want to see in the Pocket network broadly? But yeah, just take a moment, give us what sort of jumps out to you, what feels intuitive, what feels really important, what you feel like perhaps we could be better at than we're being today. I might ask a question again. people can jump in at any time, don't forget. But transparency is an interesting one because we sort of think of it in different ways as well. What are some examples perhaps of transparency, if that was your answer, or what does that really look like, or what does that mean to you? Again, feel free to expand on that if that's something that you're really thinking about and want to say.
Yeah, I can talk to transparency just for a second. I think a big part of what that means to me is visibility into decision-making processes at a lot of different levels, right? So it's one thing to, see the results out in the open and see announcements and have understanding of what is happening and what has happened, right? But being able to kind of see how did we arrive at that decision, and what were those inputs, and where was that discussion being driven from, I think is one of those like really high bars of transparency that that we should be striving for.
Yeah, that's really great. I think that's very important. We all need transparency to know what is happening, but to help sort of be open and to really participate, understanding more about how the sausage gets made, or how we are actually working together. I think it's a really good call out. Anyone have a different answer, or maybe want to sort of double click on a different value or behavior they want to say?
Yeah, I think it's
I'll jump
interesting
in
to
on-
talk about accountability in this world. So please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say that I like the idea of what we were saying earlier about not just being a single organization, but more a group of people, an organization of people. I think that that's something that we need to strive for a bit more, and I can see that happening with the sockets and I really dare a group of people in open and sharing what they're doing and making Pocket great, and building all these things on top of Pocket, building Pocket out, and really taking it to the next level, instead of just it being PNI single behind that inclusivity of the community to drive things forward.
It's a really good one.
Nice.
Thank you. And Dermot, you had one on accountability, I think.
I was just to ask the person who said accountability, because I think it's obviously so important, and it definitely aligns or resonates with me when I think about the power of an open organization. Is there is that greater transparency, and there is that meritocracy, and that kind of gives people more personal responsibility to create that accountability. But I don't know if anyone else wants to unpack on that, of what they kind of view as a best in class ideal state for kind of an open organization like this. We've got some typing, but if anyone wants to speak up, please do. But cool.
Okay, we'll keep going just in the interest of time. But thank you. I think there's some really great examples and inspiration we can draw on from that in telling this part of the story. That is actually it for the session today. Two more small questions that I will ask, but thank you for sort of giving us those answers. We'll open the discussion up a little bit more so that you can share more about how you're feeling about our DNA, the direction we're heading in, or perhaps ask Dermot and I any more questions about the process so far and sort of what comes next. Before we do that, I want to ask sort of two questions, which are not necessarily related to DNA, but I think are important. To be fair, there's a lot of change at Pocket right now. We're in a bear market. Lots of different things are happening. Changes to the entity structure, this sort of stuff. So I want us to just sort of port into the future a little bit, and maybe think about how we describe what it is that we're actually doing here. If we achieve that vision, what are we going to what are we going to look at? What are we going to call out and say, this was the thing that got us there? This is how Pocket came together. This is what we became to reach that vision. Can answer multiple times, but I'm just looking to understand, what's the sentiment? What's the thing that's really going to get us there if you were forced to sort of choose one or two words to describe that? All right, that's great. Thank you. And last one, just a bit of feedback for us. It's the first time we've sort of tried this format. Can be a bit tricky, sort of swapping between slides and your phone and bravely speaking up in front of 20 people that you may or may not know. But how would you sort of sum up today's session? And we asked for an emoji, but if anyone wants to speak up around whether they think this is a valuable format or can be improved, we'd love to know how we can make things better going forward.
This is all the feedback I need, at least. This is great stuff.
There's no poop emoji, so we're feeling a little bit more relaxed. I think we got 5 minutes because Ming has needs a little bit of time at the end to sort of talk about community stuff and the ambassador programs and that sort of thing. Does anyone want to sort of ask any questions, share any comments, or talk more about DNA, how we've got to where we are right now and where we go to from here?
Yeah, feel free to if you have any other questions.
And one thing that could be worth mentioning, Ben, if nobody wants to chip in, is just in terms of telling everyone about next steps.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to kick us off, or I can?
Why don't you take it? And I can kind of top and tail rather than things.
Yeah. So as we sort of said, we've had a survey, we've run workshops, we got more of your voice and inspiration into sort of describing these concepts that are coming through. So in the next week, the intention is to iterate on some statements which really capture the essence of what our DNA is, and start to bring them into the open, either through the forum or potentially another session such as this, where we can sort of discuss that in more detail. As we move to finalize those, the next piece of work is really just around getting a little bit clearer on what our priorities are as a DAO, as a network, for the next little period of time. And we think that's going to be really beneficial to have people involved in, again, to understand how the DAO can be best utilizing its resources and where we might prioritize allocation for those, so that not only do we have this alignment around our DNA, but we have alignment around the things that need to be done and the things that we're prioritizing the trade-offs we're going to make in the next little period of time to really get us moving in a strong direction together. So that's like a broad outline, but yeah, next sort of specific step will be to share openly these statements around our DNA and have a few more sessions to sort of unpack those together so that we're all really, really clear on what it is that Pocket is and where we're trying to go together. Anything you want to add, Dermot?
No, I think you've absolutely nailed it. So that's perfect, and yeah, it's just kind of more exciting to kind of see what we can do once we've kind of bedded in these foundations and also kind of aligned around our kind of priorities as a community too.
Nice. Well, I don't think we'll put anyone else on the spot, but yeah, feel free to reach out to us after the session if we missed something, if you wanted to share something that you sort of didn't feel comfortable to sort of saying in front of a big group of people. Yeah, we're happy to keep talking about this online, offline, wherever we need to be to reach you, so you can share your own input into this as much as you can. Thanks again, and with that, Ming, back to you.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Thank you for both leading these discussions and calls. I think it's a great platform to utilize and to hear many folks' voices in this. So yeah, I think to close things off, I just want to share really quick that we will be launching a regional community hubs program as well as ambassador program. Recently, of course, that we've also added new moderations for Discord, which will be extending to other platforms as well, such as Discord, and of course continue our coverage over on the Chinese Telegram and WeChat. And yeah, we have Jerry and Bruce that came on board as part of our moderation program as well. So those three are going to be officially kicking off, and I'll be sharing more details on that on this course, as well as sharing more details too to go over on the next community call to really dig into it. But in terms of the hubs, what we're going to do is to have a few launched hub locations, probably 3 or 4 to start off, and it's really going to be more of a private test run at first, for the first month, just to see how we need to how things are working, what's good, and what we may need to adjust, and then go from there. Because these are, of course, brand new programs that we wanted to learn a lot from as well, from feedback. But then after that, we'll definitely kick it off and open it up to other communities as well to apply and join. But I think it's going to be pretty exciting, where we're going to have localized communities, hopefully all around the world, so they can bring value directly, locally, and culturally, so that everyone will feel much more connected and be able to interact more with the community and do things more locally, events as well, for example, and documentations, especially the different languages that we can have. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of excitement that's gonna come from this, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I'll share more details as we go, and I think that's gonna be it for me to wrap it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Ming, and thank you all. That was a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you all. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.